So, just to get into it, Void Scarred is pretty huge. Um, we kind of did some cooking with some changes to things and Devourer's Bite buff and a Void Surge buff later. And now, assuming you stack Mastery, that's the big thing for Void Scarred. Now, for it to do the big damn that we want it to do, is that it this is currently our highest simming and highest performing single target and AoE build, and I'll get an AoE here in a minute. Um, that you know that you can do currently. It needs to, and this is kind of a problem, but not. I don't think it's that big of a problem. Is that you're flip flopping your haste and your mastery pretty much. Crit and verse are still just not really worth considering on Devourer because crit loses a lot of value because collapsing star automatically critically strikes anyway, so there's not a lot of scaling there. And verse is just verse. It just doesn't provide as much damage value as mastery does. Um, but I can't understate how important it is if you're going to test this build specifically, and all these builds will be in the description. The two that I'm going to talk about, and we're really not deviating much here from kind of what was theory crafted to be like the single target Felscar or Void Scar build rather. It's mostly just the fact that we're running Soul Glutton because Void Surges are really strong and getting to them more frequently is good. And then Devourer's Bite is finally my sweet Devourer's Bite is good for a single target for this build. You're not playing anything super crazy. You're still opening with, you're doing the hunt, backflip. You're still doing all this fun stuff. And notice that we don't have Moment of Craving. So if you're gonna collect souls, it's either gonna be because I'm gonna generate more than 10 and they're just gonna automatically get picked up, or it'll be because I manually am running over them and I'm already in my meta, and then I can do, Predator's Wake, all this fun stuff. Get my C-Star. You know the drill. And there's really not much rotationally super crazy happening. But if you are running Mastery, this build is doing a lot of damage. It is definitely worth a shot if you do any raid testing at all. You can't... I wouldn't say this would be super viable for Mythic Plus, which we will get into now. There's only a few talent points that are changing here between single target and AoE, but they are really impactful. We're taking the 2 points out of Sweet Release and we're putting them in Moment of Craving and Soul Shaper because of Eradicate. Eradicate is still, even if you're playing Void Scarred, and plus keep in mind, Burning Blades is a damage amp to Reap, and also Eradicate. Eradicate does apply Burning Blades, and it does double dip on Mastery as well. Eradicate is still a massive amount of your damage in a key, so taking Soul Shaper and Moment of Craving is pretty important to that. And you're just losing Sweet Release and Devourer's Bite. You lose a little bit of single target, a decent bit of single target by not taking Devourer's Bite, but the AoE gain from Eradicate is worth it for sure. But even with this, you're still not doing anything different. You just need to keep in mind when playing something like this versus Annihilator that you aren't going to have as much haste, so your consume casts are going to be a little slower. But also that you're going to be going into melee for these brief periods of time, so just make sure you're looking out for mechanics and things like that, as you normally would. Gearing-wise, if you're just going off of the vendors in Stormwind on the beta, the Delve vendor has a few mastery rings. This is just, I'm just cobbling things together. But for Void Scarred, the most important stat for you is Mastery. And if you are still running your Annihilator Giga Haste set, you will notice that this just does far less damage than it will with Mastery. It cannot be understated how much this build scales well with Mastery. You still want about the amount of haste that I'm at right now, because there are breakpoints of like you can only get this many collapsing stars in a meta. So I would try to stay around this like 13 to 15% haste mark. Um, Trinket wise, Gaze of the Alnseer is pretty much being agreed upon as like pretty much a locked in trinket. It has mastery on it. It has a decently strong effect. Good time trinket. For raid, that Locust Walker's Ribbon is probably the move for raid, but not for Mythic Plus because they fall off very quickly, quicker than Eye of Kazan did back in the day. I have been messing with a lot of different trinkets over the past few days. Heart of Wind is not, it is good for Annihilator. This trinket isn't gonna happen in Void Scarred because this is just, it's not a stat I want to care about proccing. Delve trinkets, I'm not super convinced on any of these. Maybe Glorious Crusader's Keepsake, but just in general, I'm not super big fan of Delve trinkets. Soul Catcher's Charm, if you remember, was really overpowered. It got basically nuked from orbit. This trinket's pretty much dead. Reality Breacher, this trinket's terrible. I cannot get this thing to do damage for the life of me. I like Vessel of Tortured Souls in theory. The problem is that the souls, they appear on the ground. It's very similar to Astral Antenna from Manaforge, but they don't travel to you, so you have to manually find them and pick them up, like a Fellscarred Demon Soul in if you're playing Fellscarred Havoc and Raid right now. It's incredibly frustrating, and like it just that fact alone makes this trinket not worth using. I've tried Wraps of Cosmic Madness. Unless you have someone dying every time you use this, it's terrible. This thing just does negative damage. Now, Veilgore's Final Stare was a trinket that was kind of floating around a lot, and I was a big supporter of for a little bit. The problem with on-use trinkets for the spec is that you are going to have so many times where this thing comes off cooldown and you just don't want to use it yet because you haven't gone into meta. It's really good in theory, but I really don't think this is the move, and I think we're much better off running passives. I think we're much better off running passives instead. Mind Piercer Sigil, this thing is terrible. I talked about this in a video before. This thing's terrible. This is not enough crit. It's a stat we don't like, and it's not enough of it for the same cooldown as Veilgore's Final Stare. Lightspire Core. I am indifferent on Lightspire Core. I've tried it. I like that it has a base amount of mastery, and we don't have trinket sims yet. But when you, and I'll see if I can get it to proc, the beam that spawns can actually interrupt your casting, which is like, for any spec, is the worst thing in the world. And I really dislike it. And honestly, making trinkets that I have to stand in to get benefit from is already bad. I'm just really curious, tuning-wise, how that shakes up. And then we've got, like, you know, Shadow of the Empyrean Requiem, which still, I think, has a bugged amount of haste. 11,000 haste is an insane amount. This thing, I think, is really only useful on the bird boss in March of Quel'Danas, which I'm pretty sure drops on the boss after it. Yeah, so, like, you're not even using this thing on prog for the boss that it's good on, which is interesting. I think it might see some play somewhere. For now, I'm probably gonna keep running Lightspire Core, or I'll run, like, I don't even know. Like, the trinket pool just isn't great. I might still try Locust Walker's Ribbon and a key. I would like Vessel of Tortured Souls, though. I really think if this got changed to float toward you, rather than just be, you know, something that just pops up on the ground, that would be super... yeah, see, there it is. It's just gonna sit there until I pick it up, and then I get my minute of intellect. And this does stack. Like, it does still stack and all that fun stuff. But otherwise, I think that is it for today. So I will see y'all later this week.